Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we are thrilled to be speaking to the creatives responsible for the Apple TV Plus two-film series, number one on the call sheet. Datari Turner, Byron Phillips, Shola Lynch, and the great Reggie Hudlin. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the African members on the call today, starting with Rhonda Moore in San Diego, Sonia Alexander in Los Angeles, Stacey Yvonne in LA, Carolyn Hines in Toronto, Canada, Ray Cornelius in Atlanta, Karan Lenoir Kelly, Charlottesville, Virginia, Dana Abercrombie, New York, New York, Tamara J, New Jersey, that I had forgotten, and Jill Monroe in LA. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
What's this about?
All right, boys, rolling.
Number one on the call sheet.
Number one on the call sheet.
Must be real.
You know, it's like, yo, number one.
Pictures up.
Too late to run now.
Oh!
You were number one on the call sheet for that?
Yeah, I must have been.
If you're number one on the call sheet, you are the subject and not the object of the narrative.
It's an accomplishment for most actors.
I didn't know how many opportunities I would have to be first. It means we made it.
The actors of now, we don't get here without your Denzels, your Morgans.
Still, I'm not a movie buff. It really comes down to the work. I'm just an actor. I'm no different from you. But when you see me coming, stand back a little bit more.
Where are you at? You're constantly ranking yourself.
There is something wonderful about being able to navigate that and still feel like you aren't giving up who you are.
It was very important to me to learn early in the game how to do everybody's job. Now I have flashbacks. They got me having flashbacks.
Like, damn.
Show people there's more to me than meets your eye.
If I'm being transformed, the audience will be transformed.
That man called us a minority. I ain't taking nothing minor. I'm major, bro.
The audience is a huge part of our work, and they need to see themselves.
I can't even begin to describe what this is like.
This is the moment.
We are storytellers. We put asses in seats.
I thought I was fly. I acted like I was fly and got what I wanted.
Once you get to the top of the mountain, create more mountain.
Are you done?
With what?
Hi, Dana Abercrombie, the Coalition. My question is for the directors. Can you talk about the commonalities that you found between the men and the women in regards to how Hollywood has treated them, that form the connective thread within the documentary?
You want to start, Reggie?
No, you go, Shola.
Well, that's a tricky question because, first of all, they're two films, and we worked in our own way. I mean, I think that's one of the beautiful things that Datari and Jamie and Kevin Hart did is they knew that there should be two stories. And I'll let Datari tell the Genesis story. So I come to it late when there's already a women's story, and they're like, make a film. Okay, call it Reggie. He's like, I'm making a film. Great. And we were given the creative space to find and discover and craft the stories that were appropriate and resonate with the women for me and the men for Reggie. And I sincerely applaud Apple for letting us do that because I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it at first because we're not a series. We're two documentaries that voice two important sides of one coin.
Yeah, it's one, big movie in two amazing parts. And when I look at these men and these women, many of whom I've known or work with, the commonalities to me are an incredible intelligence. They're just really smart. They are obviously master craftsmen and women, and they love their job and they take it very, very seriously. And they're very aware of the social impact of what they do as artists, but they don't let that social impact get in the way of being artists first and foremost.
What he said. But they're number one on their call sheet. I mean, it's phenomenal and inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Cornelius here with Upfront Inside the Entertainment Industry. Can we talk about that whole term or concept of oneness? I remember I interviewed, oh gosh, I can't remember his name right now, but anyway, we were talking about this amongst the models on the runway, that there was Naomi Campbell, but there couldn't be a Tyra Banks. So let's talk about this oneness concept.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, that was obviously, that was a stretch. I mean, in my earlier film, Sidney, about Sidney Poitier, there was that, thing of, well, you only get one. And because that was an attitude that Hollywood only needed one, right? And why would we have more than one? And fortunately, with each decade, that whatever myth, weird rule that make no sense has fallen away. And now this movie could not have been made in another era, that we would have this many stars, this many generations of stars, right? That we can say, here's our 70 stars, our 80 stars, our 90 stars, our our New Jacks. So just the fact that, one of the subtexts of the movie is that, we have finally broken the idea that there can only be one.
And I would just like to add in that partially becomes because Black companies produced it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll just add, I mean, I think, most of us have been in this business. I've been in this business close to 30 years. And, we've seen a lot of, careers, people have the baton and fall off, men and women. And I was always curious about that. Why did this person come out of the gate, get 4 movies where they were the star, and then now is doing like a TV show, like they're no longer a leading man, and women of the same. And I was always curious of like, how do you have the staying power of a Denzel or a Jamie or a Will or Morgan? And I think these films are, we hope that these are blueprints, right? Like for generations to come, so that they can navigate the pitfalls and that they can, sustain and have these longer careers. Because let's be honest, I mean, there's 30 white actors right now who are number ones, who are leading men. And so, to Reggie's point, it's such an incredible thing that we could have 2 movies and we got almost 50 movie stars in these movies, all who have been number one, which is an incredible feat.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stacey Vaughn. I loved this documentary. I was able to go to the clips and conversation over here at Chinese Theater, and it was interesting because even then they showed clips about the last time we had an Oscar winner, a female Oscar winner, was Halle Berry in 2002. And one of the subjects in the documentary was Cynthia Erivo. And so we have yet another time where we see a Black actress get passed over for Best Actress. There's a strange kind of irony to that. There's something that it made the documentary feel that much more comforting in a way. And so I wanted to ask kind of, what does this documentary, I guess, what are your thoughts about that? The way that this documentary, what is it meant to do specifically in the face of actresses who are going for that top level?
Oh, first of all, I love your background. I mean, I gotta figure out how to do that. So there you go. I really took this as a historical opportunity to take the temperature and speak to leading women, and the fact that there were 17 that we talked to and more that we, scheduling, et cetera. is a pretty amazing moment. And so I wanted to know what was important to them about their careers. And I think there's always, and we had, I can't remember the journalist who brought it up, Reggie, like the idea of double consciousness. It's always a part of who we are as Black folks, right? That we have to have a sense of ourselves and a sense of excellence while we are working in an environment that often doesn't see us or belittles us. And they love what they do. They love the craft. I mean, and you really see that in Whoopi Goldberg's story, where the journalists are like horrific to her, and the way that she responds with such grace and perseverance, in my mind, this is what I can do, right? And I think that it was important to explain some of the complaints that happen all around, et cetera. But it was also important to contextualize it for my kids so that it's not a complaint. It's a history. There's continuity. There is a reason. And then we have to decide what we're going to do about it. But it's not personal, right? It's the ecosystem. And I love Taraji in this, where she's like, well, what are you trying to tell me? She's not going to the question. It's about raising the question so that we grapple with it. And hopefully we bring along other people in the industry who are not aware of their choices and the historical and political implications of, oh yeah, no, this role is not for her.
Yeah, I will say, Stacey, just to add, there have been, I think, 5 or 6 Black women who have won Oscars though since
right.
Monique won, obviously. Regina King won. Octavia Spencer won. The Ariana, the boys won. Zoe won this year. Viola won, and a lot of those wins. Viola was the lead actress in Fences, but a lot of this stuff is political too, where the studio will say, even though you really are a best actress, you are the lead actress, it's an easier opportunity. It may be easier for you to win if you go in the supporting category. So a lot of this stuff is political, but just to be clear, there's a lot of women have won since Halle, so we want to at least acknowledge that.
Yes, my thing was about lead actress specifically, and that's why. But and they talked about that as well, like supporting actress, they love it all day. Thank you so much for your thoughtful answers. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Ro from the MTR Network, and I love documentaries, and I have a hard time getting some of my friends to watch them. So tonally speaking, with the way that you arranged putting together the order in which you wanted people to speak to put together your theme, especially since you said you came in and you're like, oh, now I'm making a movie and now I've got all this footage. What are you hoping that this does when you're speaking to people in the culture, like from a contemporary point of view, with respect to our own recency bias about who and what kind of projects we get behind?
Well, yeah, well, I hopefully for your friends who may be reluctant to watch a documentary, they'll look at the trailer and go, that's every movie star in the world that I love. And what the heck, I'll give this one a chance. So that's step one. And I think one of the messages of the film is there's a lot of paths to success, and there's a lot of definitions of success. And one of the things that I found very enlightening making the movie was hearing all these different people talk about what their goals were, right? Some people say, oh, I want a wide range of roles. Some people are like, no, I want to have a global hit, or, and there's no right or wrong. They're all very legitimate. And going back to what we want the audience to take away is, beyond the entertainment business, what all these people express is a winner's mentality. And that can apply to anywhere, in your personal life, in your career, in any business. It's, I found, what Will Smith said, what Kevin Hart said, what Denzel and Lawrence Fishburne, those are just great leaders in leadership. Those are great lessons in willpower. So I think for all those reasons, I think there's stuff that they can take away, depending on what you're looking for when you come to it.
Yeah. And it was also important for us to actually show that these are three-dimensional people. And, a lot of times we all get caught up in the characters of who stars are. And this is a rare opportunity to actually see beyond that and actually see the things that interest these guys beyond acting, the things that these guys think are important, not only for themselves, but for their children and for society as a whole beyond, beyond acting. And so and they were very generous in giving, their knowledge about the business, their knowledge about what they thought about things outside of the business going on. And so it gives you a chance to really see them in a different light, which we think is a rare thing. It's not the pat thing that you normally see when they're doing press junkets or whatever. It's actually seeing them as real, honest to goodness, everyday people with real concerns and real care about a lot of different things. And, and to also understand that you're not going to become number one on the call sheet if you're not a leader. And you really start to understand what it really means to be number one on the call sheet and what that leadership component has to do with why so many of these guys' films are so successful.
I would say similarly for the women, except they have to do it, backwards and with great hair and makeup, right? So I wanted to frame them literally in a beauty light, set the stage and crack that veneer of celebrity. And because of all of the EPs involved, we could get them, and a lot of hard work, Datari, we could get them in the chair. And my job was to chip away at that veneer, give them a safe space. And the film is constructed to really play to, in some ways, my favorite moments where each woman is particularly revealing about some aspect of the entirety of the story, that it was very ensemble cast for me. But all of the same things that Reggie and Byron were talking about apply to the women. It is a masterclass in perseverance and being underestimated and still maintaining your sense of self and finding your way. And I had no idea how inspiring that. I thought I was making a cool celebrity thing. I had no idea how personally inspiring that would be. And, I also was I hated the title for the longest. And now I'm ooh, number one on the call sheet. Yeah, I'm number one on my call sheet. Don't you want to be number one on your call sheet? And so I had to give it up to Datari the other day after giving him so much hassle over the title. I was
You
were right.
Thank you, Shola. I really appreciate that.
Hello, everyone. Nick Hamilton, Nightcast Media. First of all, thank you for doing this. I wanted to ask you all, you guys have such a wide range of talent in this documentary, from Will to Angela Bassett to Jamie Foxx. You mentioned Denzel and Taraji. Why was it important for you all to showcase these wide ranges of talent, but also showcase the history of why it's important to be number one on the call sheet as well, especially as Black actors and actresses?
Right. Well, my career in filmmaking started in comedy, and, comedy always doesn't get the respect that I think it deserves. Right. And when Eddie did the whole thing about what De Niro does and what Jim Carrey does, it's all the same thing and it's all hard. And, I've talked to many actors and actresses who say, look, I do both. And the fact is comedy's harder. So, so I think that's just, I wanted to establish a baseline of respect, no matter what genre you work in. It's all great and challenging work. And yes, it was important for me to establish a timeline so we can have a historical context, like how did we get here and how have things changed and how have things opened up? And the net result is things are better than they've ever been. We have a wider range of movies than ever before, reaching the biggest audiences they've ever had with the biggest budgets they've ever had. So yes, we know that there's still work to be done, but it's very important that we acknowledge the success that we have had from decade to decade. Because if all you do is whine and complain, then you're a whiner. And how do you even measure success if you don't acknowledge it when it happens?
And you also wanted to see the whole range because, there's not one path to success in anything. And like to actually hear how everyone had a different story to get where they got, like, and to be who they are is really important because for us, like, it's conveying to a wider audience that, like, there's not one way to do this. There's not one way to do anything in life, and it's about the outcome. And sometimes you have to forge your own path, and that's what's really remarkable. Some of these actors and actresses really had to forge their own path, and it's refreshing to hear them talk about it, and to see, like, we didn't just come out fully formed. Like, it was a lot of bumps and bruises that went into this and making us who we are.
Yeah, also, I would say also, Nick, I mean, you got to include them all because the thing they all have in common is that they are movie stars. So you can't make a movie about number one on the call sheet and not include all the number one on the call sheets, right? The other piece of it is every actor that dreams of being an actor, they always, whether it's conscious or not, like, if you ask people who their favorite actor is, they're going to say a leading man. They're going to say, oh, I saw De Niro in this, or I saw Denzel in this, or I saw Al Pacino in this, or Jamie in this. And so whether they ever achieve number one, these are the people that made them want to do what they want to do. You don't join the Lakers to not win the championship, so people don't make it to number one, but the goal is to make it to number one.
And the women are very aware of the history, in part because that is comforting and fortifying. Angela Bassett and various folks, Cicely Tyson, Earth Kitt, et cetera. I mean, Halle Berry and Dorothy Dandridge, right? And they knew their stuff. It wasn't just, and when I ask Halle Berry if she's familiar with Imitation of Life, she's like, of course. I didn't want to assume, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes especially for the women, we assume that they're not so smart, that they're not so driven, that they're not so, it's not strategic, but they are all of those things. They're so much more impressive than we give them credit for. And that comes across in those press lines,
Well, thank you all for doing this. And again, excellent job to everyone. I think it needs to be showcased in colleges and universities. It needs to be a thesis taught on this.
That's the plan.
Okay, yep, up at Spelman College right now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Carolyn for Carolyn Toss YouTube and podcast channel. Thank you so much for doing this interview with us and for doing these two films. I want to talk about audience and the idea of a global box office. I'm from Barbados, so I'm from the Caribbean, and something that I will admit has always bothered me with regards to Hollywood trades and everything, talking about global box office. They don't think about the Caribbean as South and Latin America. The idea of global is Europe, and now more like East Asia, like South Korea. And I noticed in the film, when any of the actors did talk about, I want to be a global star, that those are the places we saw. For Black Panther, we saw them in South Korea, where they had one of the screenings there. And I wanted to ask you, as both producers and directors, who'd ever like to answer, when is it going to come a time where Hollywood, Black Hollywood, starts looking at the Caribbean and Black communities in Africa and South and Latin America as part of the global audience, as part of the reach? Because a lot of people don't know, sometimes we never get any Hollywood releases. The only way we can actually watch them is through pirating. And I'm a champion for pirating because that's how I first saw Jaws. That's how I saw Deliver Us from Eva. That's how I saw so many of the films that so many of the other Black elder actors were through pirating, through our VHS tapes, and on TNT. So talk to me about acknowledging distribution and the places, and acknowledging Black audiences as a part of the global community and audience.
Was certainly, diaspora is very important to us because those markets are places where, we can, build our track record of success on a global basis. And you're right, whether it's Africa, whether it's the Caribbean, or, other territories like that, those can get overlooked mainly because it's this catch-22 of piracy, right? So they go, well, we can't count it because we didn't get any money, right? Meaning the distributor saying that.
Yeah.
So it's a frustrating situation, but I agree with you. Those are very important markets to us, and we want to absolutely help them grow, both as markets to show our product and places to make our product.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, as an American with Tobagonian heritage, let's be clear. I'm all for the Caribbean. And in fact, I was like, Apple, we, of course, we're playing in the Caribbean. They're like, of course, we have Trinidad and Tobago covered. We have Trinidad. So Apple TV Plus is, but absolutely the diaspora is really critical and important. And it's something that all of the actresses that I spoke to learned. I mean, Gabrielle Union told a great story that is not in the film, but it was a really great story. She talked about going overseas for the first time it was a Will Smith movie she was working on, and she was like, oh, Black films don't sell overseas, so I can just be myself. I don't have to worry about it, etc. But meanwhile, she was like, they don't tell us our stuff is bootleg everywhere. And people were running after her, going, ISIS, ISIS, and, various places show up in cheerleading outfits, etc. So it's a business problem we have to solve because we're a market and it's dollars. And we just need to continue to prove it, continue to.
Yeah, I mean, we have to solve it because we have to solve it for every growth market. And, obviously Africa is an incredible growth market. That's why Netflix has put a ton of money into developing African product and the Caribbean, and likewise with the Caribbean. I mean, there are only so many, as things become more conquered globally, there are only so many markets that you can still add to the portfolio to actually increase what you're making. And so those countries are vitally important. All the diaspora is important because they are growth markets. They are additional monies to actually add to any of these projects.
And it's changing. It's going slow, but I mean, Viola Davis's latest movie was shot in Africa. G20. I know Malcolm D. Lee is there right now shooting his movie with Blumhouse. Like, we are shooting more things there. There's no question, but there's still more work to do, obviously.
Yeah, a lot more work. Like, we don't want to be watching these things on bootleg. We want to be watching them in the theater too, but we do what we got to do. Thank you.
And we want you to watch them in the theater.
So Nancy here, and one of the things that I noticed with the documentaries, I was really taken by how they all have such different stories on how they made their careers. And I wanted to know if you could talk a bit about how they came up in their careers and what you see the possibilities are for the future, the new generation, and just different avenues in general for anyone, especially with new technologies that are out there. One of the things that I really liked was seeing Denzel say, passing the baton and how proud he was of that. So, we have a lot of struggles still, but there's also a lot of opportunities. So if you can kind of talk about those two things.
Reggie, you could take.
Sure. Well, look, I find the next generation to be in very good hands. I look at, actors like, Michael B. Jordan and Damson Idris and, a lot of exciting young actresses. I mean, I go, wow, I can't wait to work with Keke Palmer. I can't wait to work with Zendaya, who is these are the next generation stars, and they're wonderful. They're super talented. So yeah, I think it's all looking very, very promising. The great thing is, you see people coming from every kind of background, right? Keke and Zendaya were on Disney shows, and now they can do comedy, they can do drama, they can sing, they can do anything they want to. dancing interests and all the explosion of amazing young actors from the UK. And a lot of people say, oh, those are, how those people are taking our jobs. And it's like, well, we all Black, and there's room for everybody. I know as a person who makes movies, we can't have enough movie stars. No matter how many we have, we still need more. So if you have talented and you have the willpower, you have the drive, watch these 2 movies, get the blueprint and get to work.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's changed too in the last 20 years or more is that the production companies behind these movies are Black companies. We're behind the call sheet movies, right? And Kevin's company, Foxhole and Kevin. But Reggie, when he made Boomerang, I know he tells a story, he had a black boss who was advocating for him, and Eddie, right? And Jamie had a Black boss in Keenan. And that's carried forward, as I think people will see these movies and realize how important that is to be a producer, to go find things you want to star in and produce, because they're not going to do it, like you will. So I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, and this generation are much better stewards of their overall career. I mean, they're thinking about the business in much broader ways than previous generations did. They're, as Datari said, like they're forming their own companies to go out and make product. They're taking their brand into different areas beyond film and television. So I mean, they have a much bigger, broader, stronger plan about what their future actually holds. So it's and that's progress.
And it doesn't happen without Reggie and Eddie and Jamie and Keenan. Like I said, that was the generation so everybody saw that. And, again, that's why the young bucks are ahead of the game and doing it.
It's a generational game for sure, and it doesn't happen without knowing where you come from. Well, even if you don't know where you come from, you're building on the possibilities that you've absorbed. And it's an exciting time now for the younger generation, and they are getting to producing more quickly. Somebody who excites me in that regard, of course, Zendaya is bananas, but Letitia Wright, like she'll do Black Panther, and then she'll do that horror twin movie, it's the inspiration, if you tap into it, is in the previous generation, but to build on it and make it better, and we all want that. Yeah. We all want to see what it means in this next generation to be number 1 on the call sheet.
Yeah. And we want to celebrate it. I mean, that's the other big thing about these movies is there a celebration. Like we love this, we love the success, we love the Black excellence, and this is a real celebration of it, which we still don't do often enough.
Nice, thank you so much. And the movie it's great, both parts, fantastic, absolutely. Definitely.
Thank you,
Byron.
Thanks, Nancy.
Shola, Byron, Reggie, and Datari, thank you for your time today. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, we appreciate you, we enjoy you, and we will forever support you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Gil.